Hi there viewers, Bob here again with Ramon's guitar show. This episode, quite a good one. We're not really going to be talking about guitars, we're going to be talking about amps. We have got a couple of swank guitars to show you through these amps, but the focus of this show today is about amps, and not just any old amp, but specifically Dumble clones, because that's how Ramon and I first met. A chap offered me a couple of Dumble clones that I had heard about, and I'd seen two guitarists, Ramon and Philip Sace, playing. I loved both their playing and thought, that looks promising, wonder if I could have a little slice of that.
Thank you.
And so I did a little bit of research. The price the amps were offered to me at was quite favourable. My original intention was to buy both the amps, both the heads, which we're about to show you, and then decide which one I preferred, and then flip the other one and hopefully cover most of my costs. They arrived, Ramon and I got talking and became quite quickly quite close, and Ramon gave me quite a lot of help with how the things worked and how they set up, and within a few days it was quite obvious I was not going to sell either of these amps.
So one as a backup?
Well, not really as a backup, because they've both got their own voices, and they're both I hope you agree when you hear them, they're both bloody gorgeous. But what we've got today is, we've actually got no less than 5 Dumble clones behind us. 4 of them are Mystic Blues, and one of them is a particular favourite of mine, but some of you might consider them the bogeyman. It's a Malaysian Ceriatone, and we'll talk you through the amps and play a bit. Okay, so what we were doing there, a little bit haphazard, but we were both using both channels of the amps, because these are 2-channel amps. They've got a clean channel, and the idea of these clean channels on these amps is they're pretty hi-fi. The power amps don't tend to distort very much, intentionally. The speakers, obviously, when you crank them, they distort a bit more, but you have to get quite loud to do that.
So I think actually, technically speaking, they're actually a 1-channel amp with an overdrive section.
Probably.
Rather than like a Fender has 2 preamps, whatever.
You're right. There's only one input socket, and there's a switchable boost circuit. You're right. But the idea of these amps is generally that they're not, the power amp section is not supposed to overdrive. So most of the overdrive is coming from the preamp, which is not fashionable, because you know most people these days, they want the power amp sag
Yeah.
The tube's being pushed and all the rest of it to give that real spongy feedback.
And the tweed sort of amp is
Yeah.
now come back into.
And that's a fabulous feel and a fabulous sound. These amps are a bit different, but they don't feel at all stiff.
No.
A lot of people say when you've got a really clean power amp and you get all your drive off the preamp, then you get too much fizz and you get a kind of stiffness. These amps, they feel liquid.
So when we're speaking like of the clean channel, you get these really, especially with. So let's just talk about this amp. The guy who made these amps is called Tommy, and he's from Sweden. And Tommy Cougar was one of the first kind of, I don't know if you want to call them cloners, maybe that's not a nice term to call them, but Tommy was like one of the first people to replicate a Dumble circuit, you know, so he goes way back. And so these two amps here, the bottom one is Sally. They had, instead of serial numbers, they had names. This one's called Sally, and this one's called Bonnie. So this Bonnie, which Bob is playing and Bob owns, is more of a Larry Carlton sort of era and style of amp, an amp that Larry Carlton would have used. And this one here, Sally, is kind of something that Tommy made up himself. He tweaked it himself, so it doesn't really, you know, it's not like a certain Dumble sound. It's just kind of Tommy's version of a, you know, of that kind of Dumble circuit.
And it's got a bit more drive a bit earlier on.
Yeah, it's got more drive. So especially if you, it's almost kind of a little bit Marshall-y, like a Marshall on full whack. Imagine if you dialed a Marshall. So the great thing about these amps is that you can be playing in a club, a small club, you know, and so you got your. And then you don't have to play really, really loud to get this great. You can get that at a low volume.
And just sitting right next to you playing that and hearing the speaker right behind me, that is pretty much the sound, the feeling I get when I listen to some of the early Clapton stuff, when I listen to some of the recent Bonamassa stuff when he's paying homage to Clapton. It's that you're hearing every note, you're getting that wonderful sizzle, a little bit of bloom on the note, great clarity, but great drive. And if you want to play that way, you can push so much emotion out. Absolutely, Bob. And the thing is, well, I don't know if you can hear this, guys, at home, but it kind of almost, it's like the note is flipping when you. It needs to be cranked a bit more.
Yeah, but I mean, it's almost like there's something happening, there's something inside the overdrive. So you cannot get this, in my opinion, out of an overdrive pedal. What do you think?
Well, you're not the only person to say that to me, and I've pretty much stopped using pedals. The only reason I use a pedal now is if I'm playing in covers bands and I need that middle sound, crunch rhythm, which you can't get off an amp that's set for optimal clean and dirty unless you have a pedal dumbing the sound down. So I use pedals now for the middle channel.
The kind of Keith Richards dirty rhythm, Eric Johnson.
Absolutely. And you know, when you're playing in a rock band, when you're playing covers, you know, you need a crunch rhythm sound. So I use pedals for that. And yes, I do still use pedals sometimes because pedals sound fantastic through these amps. But the truth is, these amps sound even more fantastic through these amps.
Yeah, and you just, I mean, even like another great thing about the overdrive on a Dumble style circuit is that you can play more than one note and you get this effect. Yeah, that's another thing I don't really hear. So when you're playing chords. Don't get that with a pedal. You need that kind of, you can almost really pick up the strings with the overdrive.
Yeah. You know? Before we started recording today, you did use a word that I want to bring back in though. You used the word unforgiving. Right. These amps, like some parlour acoustic guitars that I've played, sound fantastic, fabulous. But if you fluff a note, you get the tip of your finger just at the wrong angle. The guitar will say, it'll call foul. And these amps are.
It's like walking on a tightrope.
They are. They don't suffer fools at all.
No.
But if you can be bothered to persist with them, I mean, they do sound fantastic. Now, Ramon plays most of the time with a pick. Most of the time, I'm holding a pick, but actually I play mostly with my fingers. These amps are very dynamic.
Very much.
Very dynamic. So if that's the kind of music you want to play, you know, and I mean, I'm mainly a blueser, and that's really pretty much all about a few notes and a bit of tone and a bit of dynamics. So
that's what you need.
It's what you need. Terrific. Should we talk a little bit about the other ingredient in these, which is essential?
Yeah.
So at the moment, if you're looking at these amps, you see this 1U box sitting here.
We'll do a close-up of this.
It's called a catulator, and we've actually got 3 catulators here. We've got enough for most of the amps we've got behind us. These are really important. These sit in the effects loop of the amp. The effects loop of the amp is, the word I use is dumb. It doesn't interface with pedals directly, it needs an interface. And so these boxes were designed as an interface between the amp and effects.
So the amp comes with an effects lift, but it's a passive effects lift.
That's the word.
Yeah.
So you need one of these things if you're going to interface it with effects, either rack effects, studio effects, like Robin Ford does, or like I am, my sound is actually going through a pedal board which has got reverb and not we're using it, but chorus and delay, right? But these things are really important for another reason. A lot of people who use them, they have a single tube in them, and a lot of people say they affect the tone of the amp and they even improve it further. But more important than that is we're getting these sounds at reasonably. You can't quite talk over it, but it's not deafening volume in here. You know, we're using the same mics to pick up the guitar sounds and the vocal sounds. So I use this as a master volume, and it's priceless. Now, what's slightly strange is that the Tommy Cougar catulator works really well with his amps. Behind me, my Ceriatone C-later works really well with my Ceriatone amp. I've swapped the two over, and they both work.
Yeah, but there's a different tone, isn't
they
there?
definitely, the families like themselves best.
Yeah.
But I had this Ceriatone Dumble clone for quite a long time. It was built for me by Nick at Ceriatone, but it was finished off in this country by a top fella, Dr. Ika.
Great guy.
Wonderful guy.
Very clever man.
Clever man.
Great player.
Great player, fantastic player, and also a guy who really understands electronics. And he basically got the Ceriatone guys to ship a 80% finished amp over, and then he finished the amp off. We put the mercury magnetic transformers upgrade into them. He tweaked the tone shaping circuits. It's basically, for those of you that know more about these kind of amps than I do out there, the guys who study the schematics, it's a Modern Eagle HRM based amp, but he's tweaked the circuits. And although we haven't played it for you yet, it's a ground sounding amp. Now it's like Sally here, it's 50 watts, whereas Bonnie and the other 2 Mystics behind us are 100 watt amps. So they all have their own character, but this is the loudest 50 watt amp you'll ever hear.
And I think, Bob, with the reason I like a 50 watt Mystic, I tend to use this one for live use, is because it just sounds smaller. And I've got a really small field cabinet here, driving an Untitled Lansing 4178H speaker, which is 100 watts, with the aluminium cone in it, for those of you who want to know. And it just gives a very direct, smaller tone, which is great for live playing, because you can't play live loud now.
With the aluminium cone, does it really beam as well?
It will do when you first get them, but I mean, this is...
It softens up. It's the other speakers we've got behind us. We're lucky enough today. At the moment, you're listening to Ramon playing through the Altec. I'm playing through a vintage EV12L, EVM 12L.
Which is the classic Dumble.
The classic Dumble amp, again in the Tela ported cabinet. We've also got a Celestion G1265 in a regular open back.
So more Robin Ford.
More the Robin Ford thing. So we've basically got a room full of Dumbles and a room full of, you know, pantomime villain speakers.
Yeah, because actually, Bob, when Dumble first started making his Dumbles, he used the Arctic Lansing speaker. That was the first speaker he used, and then he went on to EVs.
Okay.
And now I've heard through friends who know him that now he's just totally into Celestion speakers.
Right.
So make of that of what you will, but that's what I've heard.
Okay. So I've tried these amps, well my amps at least, with various different speakers, and I keep coming back to the EV. I think the EV sounds really, really gorgeous with them.
Yeah.
The Celestion G1265, I think it's probably to do with my playing, because Robin Ford makes a really good fist of it, but it thins out a bit for my playing. You really get the bottom end.
So let's just try with the Bonnie and Sally, these two, because by the way, these are the 2 older Mystics. These were when Tommy first started making amps many years ago.
80s? Late 80s?
Yeah, I'd say more 90s.
Early
probably.
90s.
Early 90s, maybe late 80s. And that's where these two come from. So let's just try, and what I'm going to demonstrate as well is sort of the way these amps have actually shaped my playing. Because you can be very fluid with that. So let's try a little Robin Ford groove here. Playing, well, I've over the years owning these amps for 10-15 years now, is you kind of milk the overdrive tone, you kind of milk it, and it's like a straining sound that you kind of it's a certain sort of overdrive, I can't explain it, that you don't get from any other amp, and then your playing really has to accommodate that kind of to manipulate that tone, and we're going to be very lucky because next month, what are we doing, Bob?
We're going to travel a couple of miles north, and we're going to play a real Dumble. We are going to have a rumble with a Dumble. Boom.
So this is Rumble.
This is the pre-Rumble rumble.
Yes, this is part one.
Yeah,
Rumble with Dumble part one.
But we're going to take. We'll take the car. We'll take one or two of our heads up.
Yeah.
As well, because we know what our own amps sound like, but we're going to meet a real one.
What guitar is this?
So let's talk just briefly about the guitars you've got in front of you. We got two really nice guitars. They're really different. This is a 1959 Gibson ES335. You might have seen it when I was unboxing all the guitars in a few videos ago. All original and in stupid clean condition. I was saying earlier, the thing you worry about when you buy a guitar, when you buy a collectible guitar like this, and it's this clean, is you go, why hasn't it been played? Is it a dog? Because they did make dogs back then, they just didn't make many. So it's always a bit scary when you get a really clean old guitar. But this plays really great, sounds really great. To be honest, it embarrasses me a bit because this is a guitar for a proper serious guitarist who can do, the jazz scales.
Not at all. Not at all.
The jazz scales and stuff.
This guy can. He
not just your blues pentatonics with a few nice flourishes. And this is a guitar that actually says, mate, are you serious? And certainly when my mates who can really play guitar play it, I mean, it just explodes with character and flavour and all the rest of it. And it's got lovely sounds, the mellow sounds, the clean sounds are really great, especially through an amp like this.
So we're going to take this up, aren't we, to play with the Dumble?
I think we should, because it's the obvious choice, a guitar like this for an amp like that, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Now, tell us about this guitar, because it's in contrast completely different, but boy does it sound good.
Well, my friend Mark Agnesi from Gibson actually gave me this guitar. Oh no, wait a minute, sorry. That was
boom! I thought you were serious for a minute.
No, that was a joke. That's satire. Satire. So we do satire on the Bob and Ramon Show. That's what it's all about. This is actually a copy. It's a Japanese copy, and probably one of the best copies in the world of an SG. What year is this kind of given the vibe of?
Well,
in terms of SGs?
the neck. I played it for the first time today, and the neck's quite big. So I mean that makes me think earlier, and I probably think it's modelled on something like a 62, and I know that the 61s and 62s that I've played, the SGs often still with a Les Paul tag on them. They have the most. You can get a lower action on those guitars than anything else I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I mean, I never thought I'd even play an SG, let alone like one, but this is just amazing. And for pickups, I'm using the Mojo. This is a Mojo PAF pickup, which is a Peter Green style pickup, and this one here is a more modern Mojo, which was actually Mark from Mojo Pickups in the UK made it for a neck because it's 8K. 8K is a hot 8K,
yeah.
But I put it in the bridge, and it's a modern sort of style, so it's not using PAF equivalent, components. It's just a modern pickup, but it just sounds.
It sounds amazing. But this guitar, so Ramon did a recent video, many of you will have seen it, about Cream and that Clapton sound there, and about the importance of the SG, which is often underrated because it's buried underneath the famous 335 and the almost famous Firebird 1. And you did a video about the SG's contribution and all the rest of it. And frankly, the tone you were getting was just Clapton in the box. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, the SG in Clapton, Disraeli Gears and your... What was your favourite song? We're
Going Wrong.
We're Going
that
Wrong.
Really slow one.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's a great. Why aren't cover bands doing that song? They should.
Well, it's not exactly a party song.
No, it's not. No.
Oh yeah. What's the first chord? This is G.
Oh yeah.
F sharp minor. I would have played the other chords, but I can't remember them.
Fantastic. It's a beautiful song, isn't it?
It's a fantastic song.
Okay, so let's move to the next 2 amps.
Right. Okay. Right, we've swapped amps. We're now going through two more Mystic Blues, the more modern ones. These are called Mystic Blue Stars, or MBSs, Ramon.
MBS, yeah, that is the leader of Saudi Arabia, is it not?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember his full, he's got an Arabic
Is
name.
he a guitar collector? If not, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I guess he should be.
Oh, he certainly should be, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
I'm not selling that.
I'm not saying he's. I'm not saying I'm a supporter of his. Though.
Oh well. Political satire there.
We don't do politics on this channel.
Right. Anyway, back to the amps. So these are the two more modern. These are from the 90s.
No, yeah, these
the
are
noughties.
these are from the noughties. Yeah, these were the second one. So the first one, Bob, was the amps which had ladies' names like Bonnie and Sally, and they were actually famous blues and jazz singers. And he did a run of about 30 of those amplifiers, I think, if I remember rightly. And then he did a second run a few years later of the MBS amps, and I think they total maybe 20 in number. So there's not many.
So we've got 2 of 20 here.
I'm pretty sure around that number.
And he's still making amps occasionally, but he's stopped making these.
Yeah, so if you call these the Overdrive Special clones,
right?
He stopped making these, and even when he was making the second batch MBS amps, I don't think he was really that happy to do it. I think Tommy's not somebody that likes to copy things. He likes to do things his own way. He uses his own ears, and really, in a way, that's actually closer to the Dumble ethos than any of these copyists, because Dumble can't even recreate one of his own amps. If you asked him, can you recreate that number 146 Dumble? If he tried to do it, he wouldn't be able to do it, because he's using his ears and he's tweaking the amp, with the components that he's got.
And he tunes it and voices it as a handmade, unique item. And people do say about these amps that these amps are definitely in that school of Dumble, and they've got all the the clean to beautiful sweet overdrive, the clarity of the note, the bloom, all that stuff.
So the topology is Dumble,
but they are very much their own personalities, aren't they?
And Tommy's tweaking them using his own ears and his brain, because he doesn't have Dumble's brain. Nobody does. Only Dumble has Dumble's brain, believe it or not. Although Dr. Ike is pretty close.
Dr. Ike gets pretty close.
Ike.
Only Ramon's got Ramon's brain, only I've got the remains of my brain.
Yeah, I want to say actually, Dr. Ike is actually a brain surgeon, is he not?
He is. He's a neurosurgeon or neuroscientist.
Yeah, we're going to put, if we talk about somebody that you don't know, we're going to put links in this video so you can check these guys out. But Dr. Ike, definitely a player.
Definitely a guy who knows a lot about these amps and about the insides of these amps and how they work and how they breathe, which is kind of important. But anyway, let's play something. These are two 100 watt MBSs. I don't know whose came first, yours or mine. They're both in black boxes.
I think mine is older.
Is it?
Yeah, yours. So Tommy was actually tweaking the circuit that he designed for these amps as he went along. So mine's slightly older. Okay. Yours has got probably a few tweaks that mine hasn't. But
so you can hear the difference. What do you feel like?
Okay, so guys, I'm just hearing Bob do a little sound check earlier, and he was playing this beautiful song. I said, "What's that? What is it, Bob?"
It's just a noodle of mine. Sounds a little bit Crusaders-y or early Robin or something. It's nothing special, but here we go. Again, come on.
It's my fault.
Something like that.
So in terms of circuit, Bob, I think the one I'm playing here, this is my one, MBS. I think it's a low play classic or high play classic. I don't know. It's that kind of early '80s Robin Ford circuit, you know. So I guess we're talking around, I don't know, Supernatural, that album. For me, that's what I'm hearing. It's
so I get very lost about it. Look, I'm not an electronics geek. I just kind of know what I like. I know the sound I want. I think this whole game was kicked off by guitar players like Jackson Browne, particularly David Lindley.
Yeah,
played at Dumble, early Dumble. That wonderful, exuberant, warm, sweet tone he got. Then obviously Larry Carlton, Robin Ford, probably.
And these were all LA-based guitar players.
LA-based guitar players. And Dumble works near LA in the desert somewhere, Utah or
well, he was
Arizona or.
Yeah, he was in LA, and I think he was even living in Jackson Browne's house.
Oh right, okay.
You know,
so he's on the premises. And Jackson Browne apparently has hoarded the things. He's got.
Well, he had a warehouse actually where Steve Ray Vaughan recorded Texas Flood in Jackson Browne's warehouse, sort of his gear warehouse. You know?
Right.
And,
but I mean, what I was going to say is, so I mean, there's all the geekery around these amps and the fact they're all designed for individual players. I mean, clearly we don't, you know, we're going to meet the first Dumble I've ever met in our next video.
Yeah.
Right. I've met enough of these and amps like Fuchs, Blue Does. What else have I played?
Van Wilden's. Have you played a Van Wilden?
One Van Wilden.
Right.
There's a guy in London who's building Dumble clones that you and I both know.
I know. I just met him actually. He's a really cool guy.
Really cool guy.
Can we mention his name?
Yeah,
Marcus Cliff.
All right, we've mentioned his
Great
name.
player.
Hi, Marcus. Great Telecaster.
Red hot.
Whoa! On a Telecaster. Woof.
Yeah, and he's played with some big guys.
He's played with some big guys and still does.
He's a man.
He also he's very talented because you know he's got the technical knowledge to build amps like this. So they're played by a few friends of ours, and God, they sound fantastic.
Really good, yeah.
But the strange thing is, so obviously, it's a bit like if I'd played every copy of this guitar, but I'd never played this guitar. It's the same thing. So I've never played a Dumble yet.
I mean, I've had the fortune to play one, and I'll say it again. You know, guys like Bludo and Fuchs, they make a great. I mean, Andy Fuchs makes an amazing amp. There's no doubt about it. If you've only got a couple of grand, $3-4 grand, I don't know how much they are, but check out Andy Fuchs amps. They're really, really good. And they're very consistent. So if it's a bit of a jungle for you and you don't know which one to go for an Andy Fuchs amp because they're all going to be the same. They're all that high level. Bludo tones. I think I don't know if Larry Carlton uses Bludo tone amps. You know what I mean? So for me, I've never heard one that sounds as good as the Mystics or as good as a Dumble. And I know people may say you can't say that. Same with Van Wilden. I've never heard a Van Wilden that sounds as good as these things. But I'm going to tell you straight, Bob, and say what I think, my real opinion. But I think the thing with, like I said, I'm going to come back to what Tommy's ethos making these amps, these Mystic Blues amps, is that Tommy, he knows he doesn't have Dumble's brain. He knows he doesn't, so he's not going to try and copy a Dumble amp. He's going to copy the circuit maybe, or the basic circuit, but then he's going to put his own sort of heart and soul into it. He's going to tweak it to his ears.
Yeah.
And he's not going to try and replicate like serial number 158. Because, for example, what I think guys like Blue Tone, I think what they're doing is they're really trying to replicate a certain style of amp. Like this is the amp that Robin Ford played in 1997 on this album. I'm going to do you a copy of that.
Well, it's the same with guitars. When people, by getting Jimmy Page's exact amp and Jimmy Page's guitar, you think you're going to be in Led Zeppelin. And the truth is, it's a small matter of you and your hands.
Exactly.
And you can certainly get closer by having the right gear.
Yeah.
But ultimately, any great guitar player, you give them a piece of junk and they'll make it sound pretty much like them.
Yeah.
And us average guitar players, we need all the help we can get.
The thing is, though, Bob, is that with, like I said, I think the best if you're going to clone a Dumble, just try to make an amp sing and make it sound amazing on its own. Don't try and copy.
Absolutely. And in truth, I mean, clearly, I'm not coming across as knowledgeable about the insides of these things, although many of you guys who are watching this will be. But frankly, the challenge is out there. If somebody can get this sound out of a tin of biscuits, I'll buy it. Right? I'm not here to say, I've got something that's a bit more like a Dumble than that. Comparative. I just want a sound, and I love the sound out of what's coming out from behind me.
Yeah. I mean, do you think Robin Ford knows what his amp is, what circuit it is?
Well, because he knows the guy who built it, and the guy built it for him. There was probably a lot of negotiation while it was being built.
You know what?
So in that sense, I mean, he's definitely said, "Hey, it sounds a little bit too raspy, or it's a little bit too toppy."
Yeah,
or,
he's going to know those kind of.
He's been involved in design, like with my 633 amps.
Yeah.
When I worked with Cliff Brown 633, he'll say, "How does that sound?" And I say, "It sounds fantastic as always. But could I have a little more of that?" Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think that's what a player is going to be looking for is a sound. They're not going to be looking at technical circuits.
No,
we don't need to know that stuff.
No.
We just need to know, can it, when you, can you do that?
That's there.
So that's what you're really looking for.
So those two notes you played could have been the first two notes of "Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood," the Robin Ford version.
Yeah, I think it was.
And that was, I'm just listening and going, it's pretty damn close for me.
Yeah, and then it's just down to your own fingertips, and the rest of your music.
Ability to listen, convey, fingers, practice.
Yeah. And don't get too hung up. This is the thing I sort of see a lot of on the kind of whole guitar communities is people are flipping stuff, and it is fun to do. It's fun to get a guitar, play it for a few months, and then flip it and get something else. But I think the guys that really do develop a tone are guys that are keeping the same gear. Look at Rory Gallagher.
I have to say, I'm nodding my head furiously, but if you've seen other of these videos, you realise that when it comes to guitars, I'm a complete prostitute. So I'm nodding my head furiously, but the truth is, all the guys that I know and am fortunate enough to play with, all of whom are considerably better players than me, they tend to have a very narrow repertoire of instruments. As you say, Rory Gallagher used to get all that stuff out of one Stratocaster that he knew probably better than any of his friends.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think he sweated so much on the neck that they had to literally wring it out. They had to take it out and dry it out for months or something.
Now, listen, back to what you said about, for example, Andy Fuchs making a first-class amp. For a sensible, still money but expensive, good budget. There's one more amp that in this room we should try.
Yeah, let's do this. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just we'll do a quick cut here, and then we'll just because we should wire up the Ceriatone because it was under £2,000 for the amp, speaker, cabs.
1, 2, 3, 4. that amp there is sounding absolutely wonderful. What is it?
Right,
What's the story?
This amp is the odd man out in today's collection. This is the Malaysian Ceriatone. I've had the amp for about 4 years, so the prices might be out of date, but this whole amp, speaker, cab, everything, cost about 2,000 UK. And it's, I put it up against anything else I've heard in this space. It's a really terrific amp. So, whenever I go into these forums and there's the snobs come out, against the Far Eastern thing, I have to say I have personal experience of dealing with that company, and admittedly, Dr. Ika here helping me tweak the sound of it.
So this is our friend Dr. Ika, okay? The brain surgeon?
The brain surgeon and top fella. But I have to say this amp stands up against anything else that I've played.
Can I just say
I didn't gig it for a long time because I didn't have a catchulator. And the one thing about the amp is without the catchulator, it's blisteringly loud. And I was literally riding the volume control like by a millimetre. And that was the difference between inaudible and wall melting. So I didn't use it until I had the catchulator. But since I've had the catchulator, just tame the back end. It's fantastic.
But I think your friend and our friend Dr. Ika, he's gone in there, hasn't he? He's done some tweaks. Right?
Oh, he's done some tweaks. Yeah.
So it's probably, what was it like before you gave it to Dr. Ika?
Well, I never knew because the way we did it was he helped me order it.
Right.
It came over straight to him. He did the tweaks on its way to me.
Right.
So
if would you recommend somebody going out and buying one of these things and being happy with it?
Well,
straight off the bat?
I think so. I mean, the only modification I did is that I ordered the Mercury Magnetics Transformers upgrade, from new. If you read the forums, there are other ways, less costly ways of getting around that. But it wasn't terribly expensive. I mean, as I say, the whole thing cost me a couple of grand, which for an amp of this calibre is astonishing value. Ika has done a couple of retrospective tweaks, so I'm going to show you on this panel, but on these amps we've got a two-way switch here, blues and jazz. On this amp it's got a three-way switch. It's the regular overdrive special in the middle, and it's two different kinds of blackface voicing up and down, which is put on as a retrospective favour. Said try this, you might find a bit of fun, and it's nice. But like you and I live on the
blues setting,
blues or rock, whatever it's called, not the jazz. So on this amp, I tend to live on the Dumble clone setting, But fantastic amp.
So I mean, it just goes to show you don't need to get this super expensive, boutique makers to build you one.
No, and the other thing is, there's not only is there Ceriatone, but there is a second-hand market, for these amps, and you can get access to these amps. These aren't just for people who drive Bentleys. These amps, they are accessible for people who are serious about their guitar.
Yeah, and it might not be for everybody because people get these amps and think, actually, I don't like it. I don't like this style of amp. It's not for everybody. I think you need to try out a few things and then. But when you get something that is kind of working, you want to stick with it. I see a lot of people flipping amps all the time, and they never really discover because there's a lot of things to discover within the amp, what the amp can do, what it can't do.
I think you're so right. I mean, I'm the wrong side of 60. And if only I'd known this one thing about a guitar and an amp, no one ever sat me down and told me that the instrument is the guitar, the lead, amplifier, speaker. That's the instrument. It's not this thing. This is the thing you hold, right? And you look at guitars, everybody obsesses about guitars, everybody wants the latest beaten up 2.5, 3 grand custom shop Strat and all the rest of it. Well, good luck. It might be a nice guitar. Might not. That's not the instrument. The instrument is the whole chain, right, and how you work it and how you control it. And actually, the truth of the matter is, even though the guitar is the pretty shiny thing that you see, you hang in front of yourself at a gig, the most important thing is the amp. If you put a £200 Bitzer guitar, indeed some of your guitars that you make incredible sounds with are Bitzer guitars and they're not expensive.
No,
they sound incredible because you play them through incredible amps.
Because this is what
the amps.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny because as Bob's saying this, this is what I used to tell people all the time. I say, you can play a cheap guitar through one of these amps, it's going to sound $1 million. If you play a really expensive guitar through a really naff amp, it's going to sound...
Hands up, I'll tell you. I used to play my 1958 Les Paul through a Line 6 AX 2x12, one of the first modelling amps. It served my purposes, but did it sound good? Ah, you are kidding. Right, so I've done that, and it doesn't. Whereas you can buy, get yourself a nice...
Like a Squire Telly. Great guitars.
Set it up right, maybe do something with the pickups if you fancy it, which is not a big expensive upgrade, but played through an ordinary amp. But then again, these amps don't need to be expensive. We're sitting in a room with a deluxe reverb that I picked up off a friend second hand for just over 400 quid, and I can gig that amp and it will sound lovely.
Yeah, I think that the point, Bob, with the whole Dumble, the D-style amp, overdrive amp, is that the overdrive is not from a pedal, and I think that's what people, if folk haven't played these Dumble style amplifiers, that's what's going to be the biggest revelation. Is when you're playing that overdrive, it's a different feel. It feels different under your fingers to a pedal, and a pedal will never, just never get there, will it?
No, it's different, and certainly the pro guitar playing friends of mine, that have got these style of amps, not necessarily this exact make, but they're all saying pretty much the same thing. They're not really using pedals. The one thing I was going to say, I'm going to get onto a riff now, but seriously, I just wish if somebody had told me what I'm about to say 30 years ago, God knows where my guitar playing would be, right?
You're not bad, you're pretty good.
Really.
Got a lot of fans.
Another bloody planet, right? It's the amp, guys. It's the amp, right? You can put a pretty average guitar through a brilliant amp and you're going to sound pretty terrific. You can put a breathtaking guitar through a shitty amp and you're going to sound pretty pants. And the trouble is, nobody looks at the amps, they're just boring black boxes. Boring black boxes that sit behind you on stage. This is the sexy thing, sunburst or foam green, Duesenberg gold parts, ivory, gorgeous, look at me how sexy rock and roll I am. And it's in front of you, up and the lights on stage and all the rest of it. And so everybody goes for the guitar. It's, sorry guys. And I've bought that, I've drunk that Kool-Aid myself for 50 years, and it's wrong. It's the amp. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, even if you've got I'm not going to mention PRS because we don't do that on the channel, do we? We do not mention PRS. But you can have. There was a time when it was like the PRS and the Mesa Boogie, wasn't it, or the PRS and Soldano? They were the two things you had to have. When I was sort of young. But I think. It could be that your amp is a tweed amp. It could be that's the amp that you're destined to have.
Totally.
And that's
look at the success that Jesse Hoff is having with Lazy J's now.
Yes.
Right. And that's basically it's a brilliant reissue. It's
amazing.
Handmade.
Can I just say,
I'm sitting looking at one. There's one over there. I love it. It's a fantastic amp, but different.
It's different. But Jesse's kind of got that whole kind of. It's almost like he's the Dumble of the tweed amps, isn't he? Anybody who doesn't know Jesse. He's the coolest guy. I've met him many times.
Coolest guy,
he's a
really
nice
really
guy.
helpful guy, and he makes fantastic amplifiers. If you're in for that tweed sound, of course,
amazing.
the joy of having a tweed. It's a small box. It's like a little suitcase, easy to carry, easy to get into the hot spots without getting too loud. Drives beautifully, loves a microphone.
Yeah,
incredible amps.
And it's great with a Les Paul. The thing about these amps is they're amazing with the Les Paul, but also with a Telly and a Strat. Same deal, isn't it? It's really. Versatile amps.
Yeah. Although, of course, again, collector snob speaking for a minute, better with an early Les Paul because the early Les Pauls are so much cleaner and brighter.
Yeah.
All the later ones are muddier, so you have to work harder to get the definition.
We're going to
do it.
We're going to do a Bob and Ramon show, a Les Paul shootout. That's going to be. We can have the 58 burst and a modern custom shop. An ESP copy. I think our friend Daniel's Guitars maybe will bring one along.
Sure. I mean, we can probably get hold of one of my mates has got. I think he's got 4 Carmelita.
Okay.
Historic, historic, super reissue things made after Ronnie Proller's famous '59.
Right.
Les Paul. It's got.
So we'll have a real Les Paul shootout. And we'll play the Lazy J. We'll use the Lazy J just for that.
Actually, it's a good idea because then you're not talking about having a very highly evolved tweaky thing. You're talking about a modern iteration of a classic old simple couple of tubes, tone and volume.
Yeah. So shout out to Jesse from Lazy J. I hope you're doing well.
Shout out to Tommy Cougar who makes these incredible Mystic Blues amps. Shout out to Nick at Ceriatone in Malaysia for the fantastic work he's done for me and I dare say many others.
And our friend Dr. Ika.
Shout out for Dr. Ika. Who have we forgotten?
dear Dario, who are going to send us some strings.
God bless them.
They don't know that, but I'm sending them an email after this.
Fantastic.
Shout out to Mark Agnesi, our friend at Gibson.
Indeed. And of course, your friend at Free the Tone.
Oh yeah, Yuki from Free the Tone.
Makes those
great
fantastic
guy.
pedals.
Yeah, so...
which I'm jealous of.
Yes, Yuki's a great guy, and I think that's about it for today, isn't it?
I think so. Hope you've enjoyed watching, guys.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Take care.